that's pretty much it, right? Are you guys ready? Cool. We're so happy. Good morning. Great keyboard. I might warm up at some point in the near future with you guys, just because. How many of you warm up your voice before you sing? Just curious. I'm interested in what you do for your warm-ups. How many of you warm up before you talk? Like you. I warmed up a little bit today, just the tiniest bit. Sometimes in the mornings well, especially because it's like 8 a.m. in my body. So when I woke up at 7 a.m., it felt like 5 a.m. in my body. So I think for me, waking up and just getting going vocally and mentally and physically, it's all part of the same thing. So we're going to talk about that today. But I'm Joanna. I am the vocal coach in Redding, California, in our community at Bethel Church. If you've heard, how many of you have heard of Bethel Church? Or Bethel Music? Okay, great. So we're in good company, I think, unless you're like, yeah, which some people are, but I think if you're here, you're probably not, I hope. So I am from Redding, California, which is like 30 minutes away, or I'm from Red Bluff, which is 30 minutes away from Redding. So I grew up kind of in that Northern California area. I moved to LA for a few years to study music business and got my degree in music business, and then realized that I wasn't passionate about the music business, so I was going to do something else. So I became a nanny for a year, paid off my college debt, moved to Redding, did school of ministry at Bethel, and out of that was hired as a worship pastor in the school of ministry. So I've been doing that for 10 years. And so it's really fun to be able to couple the kind of music industry side with the vocal side, with the pastoral side, and just put it all together. So that's my quick background as far as just who I am in general. I'll tell you a little bit more about my vocal journey as we get started, but I'll give Bryce a minute to also introduce himself.
Yeah, hey guys. Good morning. Hey. So I shared a little bit yesterday. My dad was wow, my voice sounds good.
So we're both talking low, and I'm like, I think we need to warm up. So we'll warm up everyone, but we'll do it in a minute.
Yes. So my dad was in Houston Grand Opera, so he had a conservatory growing up, and so his conservatory shifted into being like a home studio. So I grew up, just running around listening to people sing, listening to what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and then hearing my dad obviously correct and things like that. So he had a few things right, he had a few things wrong as far as his teaching method, but coming and starting taking lessons with Joanna, kind of realizing the freedom and a certain amount of mastery that my dad just didn't have, and so really leaning into this technique. And it is, once you start to understand it and comprehend it, it's the path of least resistance, and I think that's kind of the way we want to, I look at a lot of what we're doing is what are the things that are inhibiting you, and that's what I experience is the things that you think are helping you, they're probably not, and so kind of path of least resistance is what I experience with this technique. It's really good.
I think what Bryce means too by the things you think are helping you are like raising your eyebrows and like standing on your tiptoes to hit your notes. We think we're helping ourselves, but we're actually creating stress and strain in the body, which is going to create stress and strain for the vocal cords. So it's a big part of kind of the overall system. So we're going to talk about the anatomy of the voice today. Just a little bit about my vocal journey. When I was 11, I started taking lessons. It was like classical, just whatever 11-year-olds do. And then, which was maybe like some Disney songs or something, I don't know. 11, 14, I started taking with like a country kind of belter kind of teacher, because he was like the best guy around, because small town. And then when I was 17, I started taking lessons with a guy named Dave Stroud, who now teaches, like, he's like one of the coaches on American Idol, like behind the scenes coaches. So he's like a celebrity voice coach, and he's taught Demi Lovato and I always forget, Justin Bieber.
Frank Ocean.
Yes. Pentatonics. Who else? I don't know. A lot of people that know what they're doing. And so, yeah, so Dave, when I was 17, I would drive 2 hours away to Sacramento, and he was in San Francisco, which is like an hour plus away. So he would drive over to Sacramento, I would drive down, and then he would teach me, so I wouldn't have to go all the way to San Francisco. And it was so cool because back then, that was, you know, I don't know when that was. I don't know, probably around, I don't know, 17, 18, 19 years ago, somewhere in there. So, yeah, so it's crazy what happens in 20 years with a vocal career and vocal knowledge and just growing in the world of voice. He's now a part of an organization that's all over the world, and it's called Vocology in Practice, and it's basically just a network of vocal professionals, voice doctors, ear, nose, throat doctors, speech pathologists, voice teachers, literally all over the world, because the reality is vocal science is far behind other sciences that are like life-threatening or life-saving sciences. So people want to support and come behind saving lives way more than they want to financially support, hey, how does the anatomy of the voice work? So the vocal science is just behind. So there is a guy, Ingo Tietze, and he's like one of the leading guys, and he's getting old now, but if you ever want to, we'll probably talk about it a little bit today, but there's a straw exercise. It's a really good warm-up, and if you just like YouTube Tietze, T-I-T-Z-E, straw, it'll show you, and it's just this tiny little straw, and he's like making noise in it, but it's all about creating the optimum environment inside of your system to create and produce sound. So it's harder to stress, it's harder to strain, it's easier to hit high notes, it's easier to be stronger in the middle. So it's just setting everything up. So anyway, when I was 17, I started taking with Dave, and then, I have Adele, Kelly Clarkson, it's in my notes. Michael Jackson. Oh my gosh, she's so cool. It's like literally in my notes. Good morning, everybody. I just need a little. Let's just warm up. My brain needs it. My voice needs it. So just do this with me. Just go. And you can if you put either your fingers here. Everyone just do that with me. Say dopey, dopey. Say dopey, dopey, dopey. Dopey, dopey, dopey. Yeah, so this is the idea of, Mandy's like, yeah, you make me do this all the time. But it's awesome though, because doing these weird sounds, we're gonna get into this, but making weird sounds helps your body learn how to make sound in a healthy way. Because often we do what we do and we know what we know, but we don't know what we don't know. Haha. So we don't know what we don't know. And in that, when we learn something new, it allows our body to experience something potentially that's better or healthier, even if it's weird. So roll with me on this. Let's do it again. And get that dopey feeling in there. So it's not, you don't want it tight, and you don't want it breathy. You just want dopey. Good. And if you can roll your tongue, it's genetic, so not everyone can do it, but if you can roll your tongue, go. Sorry. So start on the low end and go up. And sometimes if you go fast. Yeah, good. And then let's hit the low end. Yeah, good. Good job. Good job. And then if you can't do the tongue roll, that's okay. There's a couple other good ones. We just learned about the V, which is similar to that straw thing, going woo. It's making a V sound. Woo. Try it. It's kind of weird. It feels restricting, but push through it a little bit. V. And start like a engine revving. Try it. Good. Good job. Now, if your V is, it's more like an F. So it's not creating that pressure. You need that pressure. You want that pressure. So anyway, I feel better already. My voice, can you tell that my voice actually sounds like, oh, hey, I'm actually here today. And not like, good morning. So I feel better, hopefully you feel better, and if you don't, you will in a minute, or in 20 minutes, or in an hour. At some point you will feel better today, this morning. How are you guys doing? Yeah? Did you get enough sleep last night? Yeah? No? How many people did not? Okay, feel ya? How many people did? No, that's good. Sleep is like a really big deal. We'll talk about it in vocal health, but sleep is a really big deal, especially when you have to lead worship the next day. Like, just be like a sleep Nazi. You're just like, yep, I'm sorry you're all hanging out and having fun. I'm gonna go sleep so I can sound good when I sing. Okay, bye. So, we'll talk about it more later. Everyone's like, no. Okay. So how many of you in the room are like currently singing on stage, doing the thing? Probably most of you, I'm guessing. How many of you aren't, but you want to learn about it? Great. Okay, good. Awesome. Thanks for being here. How many of you have had voice lessons before of some sort? Okay, out of those, do you know if they were classical? How many of those were classical? Okay, and classical is a little bit more about like, it's all about breathing and posture and yeah, ish. In college, I skipped part of my journey, but in the college part. So when I went to university, I had to pick an instrument because I was a music major. So I picked voice, and my teacher in college was, like my vocal coach, was the lead female in Phantom of the Opera in San Francisco, like prior to her coming and teaching at my university. So it was really intimidating because she's like, opera all the way, and I'm like, I don't actually want to sound like that though. So I'm working with this technique that I used to work with called speech level singing, and they're trying to train my low end, chest voice, and then I'm working with my classical, and she's like, get out of there, and I was like, what do I do? So both of them were like, stop doing that, and I'm like, but I like my chest voice. So I got a B+. One semester I was straight A's, freaking B+, one B+. So I had whatever it was, 4.98 GPA. I was like, oh, so mad. But, especially when it's voice, which is like my thing, it's like, really? But it was just because I didn't want to fully embrace the lack of chest voice. So it is what it is. I'm not bitter. I totally left it in the past. Super forgave her, everything. Okay, so why do I teach this class? I teach this class because worship singers and worship leaders, they do what they do. They show up and they're great and here I am, I'm doing it. Until they can't. Meaning, it's awesome and it works out, but if you really want to be the one that's on the album and touring, you better know what you're doing, because you will not, like, first of all, Olympians don't go to the Olympics without a coach. Why? They want to make sure their form is good. They want to make sure they have longevity and sustainability. If your form is slightly off, like I played softball and volleyball for years, and I have pain in areas of my body now where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when my coach used to say, throw it this way, or you need a little bit more of whatever it is, form-wise, and now I can feel it. I can feel it in my body because I wasn't attentive to proper form when I needed to be. So it works out until it doesn't. Your voice, it'll work out until it doesn't. So when you have vocal nodules, you'll realize, oh, I guess I can't do what I used to do. When you have, when you develop some kind of vocal trauma, when you can't hit the high notes anymore, you'll realize, oh, or when you're on tour and you have to cancel a date or 2 or 7 because your voice isn't sustaining. So it's interesting to me how with worship singers, because it's like ministry, it's like from our heart, we don't treat it the same as we would if we thought of it like a job or like going to the Olympics. We just don't. And it's part of what I want to do is start to change the mindset of how we think about our instrument, so how we take care of it. We were watching this video with John Mayer the other day because he had nodules, or what was it, granuloma or something?
Yeah,
Granuloma, no D. Not granuloma. Okay. I'm very smart, everyone. Just kidding. He's the science guy. He hates when I say that, but he's good. You're good at anatomy. We're going to talk about it. So granuloma which is like a cyst or a polyp, but in his voice, and he was joking in this interview because he was like, yeah, we used to make fun of people that called the voice an instrument, and he's like, but now I realize how it is an instrument. You have to take care of it. Like imagine if you never changed your guitar strings ever, or never got new sticks when you drum, or it's like you don't do that. However, this instrument, you can't change out your vocal cords, so you have to take care of the ones you have. There's no like replacement. You can literally get another limb, like you can get a replacement arm, an artificial arm. You cannot get artificial vocal cords. It doesn't exist. So when you destroy them, there is surgery, but there's no guarantee that you can recover from it. So I'm not trying to like threaten at all. I'm just saying like, hey, this thing is a big deal. If you want to be using it in a big way, you want to take care of it in a big way. And part of that is learning how to use it, which is why you're here. So yay! But that's why I like teaching about this, because I just feel like sometimes we're like, oh yeah, I'm a good singer, and period, end of story, and I'm gonna go do the thing. But the other thing is that I feel like often we know that we're limited. Like we know that we can't hit that note the way we want to hit it, but we just don't know what to do, so we just become a little bit apathetic. It's like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just not going to do anything. So that's the fun part about teaching what we teach, is that we can actually help you hit that note. We can actually help you not strain and lose your voice after 2 services. We can actually help you do the thing that you love doing with ease, with confidence, with freedom, with longevity. Like, that's the whole point. So that's why we're here. That's what we love to teach about, because it's so fun to be able to express what's inside of you, and then also not be distracted by your voice, so you can actually worship. That's the thing about worship leading, is like, we don't want to be thinking about, can I hit the note? How do I hit the note? So there's a whole process of learning. And at first, yeah, you have to pay attention, but eventually, you just want to be able to express what's inside of you so you can focus on worshiping and not on your limitations, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so in terms of vocal stuff, we sound good enough to like make the team, but not to be like at a professional level. And part of what that is, just simply, and we'll dive into the details, is too much air, too much muscle, too much stress, strain, tension, or not enough intensity, not enough power, not enough pressure. We kind of think about like passion in worship, like passion is strength, but it often ends up being like a lack of ease or unhealthy belting. It can sound stressed. We think we're being passionate, but we actually just sound constipated. I mean, we've all heard singers where they're going for the high note and it just doesn't sound as fun as they want it to sound. It sounds, right? Does that make sense? Because we're stressing and straining. So when we know how to do it, and when we're confident in that, we don't have to hold all that tension. Sometimes we want to sound tender, but we end up sounding breathy, and we have a lack of power and lack of presence, which is actually really hard on the vocal cords. Too much air over the vocal cords can be really harsh to them and abrasive. And then the other thing is that we don't want to expose our flaws, so we actually limit our range because we don't want to expose, I can't hit that note, or we actually flip, so we actually flip and avoid any kind of weirdness by, I sing high end like this and low end like this. They're not connected, they're not related, it's not smooth, but I'm doing whatever I can to avoid exposing my flaws. And so, rather than learning how to navigate that, we're just avoiding it. So these are all the things that I encounter with worship singers. And so, did I already say that? Yeah, I said I'm the worship pastor in the school ministry, right? Okay. So with that, I've had and they were just asking me the other day because audition demos are due tomorrow. So I'm getting a bunch of emails, which is fun. And there's usually about 150. I think the most I've ever had was closer to 200 vocalists are auditioning for the worship team, and there's eight worship leaders and 4 backing vocals. So there's like 12 slots for vocalists out of 150 to 200 people that are auditioning. So with that, having the experience of seeing different types of vocals and working through the mental side and the physical side, these are the things that come up most frequently, these mindsets, these thoughts. So that's where kind of our training is coming out of. And then, yeah, so I usually ask this question, and I might have already spoken to part of it, but why don't worship leaders get voice lessons? So those of you that don't, so I always say that like every other instrument, for the most part, probably had lessons at some point and like dove into that. Vocalists, way, way, way less so. So why do you guys think that vocalists don't get voice lessons? Or why do you not get them if you don't? And this isn't a shaming thing. This isn't like, you're bad and you're, no. This is actually to unpack, because there are reasons we are not doing it. Financial?
Access to relevant teaching.
Access to what?
Relevant teaching.
Relevant teaching. Yeah, what's out there, you might know some classical teachers, but you don't want to do classical, so what are you going to do? Yeah, that's totally fair. What else?
You think it's supposed to be natural?
What's that?
I think it's supposed to be natural.
What is supposed to be
That
natural?
singing is
Oh, singing. Oh, yeah, like I don't need a voice coach to talk. Why do I need a voice coach to sing? Yeah. So just the mindset of like, hey, this is natural. Yeah. And I'll just address that really quick. I would say it's the same as athleticism, right? Like, so if you think about natural athletes, they're naturally athletic, but they definitely had a coach to make it to pros, right? They're naturally athletic, because then you can have the other guy who's not naturally athletic, and he can also have a coach. He's probably not going to make it to pros. But, so it's not like coaching is the only thing, but the guy that is naturally athletic won't make it to pros without a coach either. You don't just naturally athleticize yourself into the NBA, or the NFL, or the whatever. MLB, is that the other one that we did this year? I was just gonna say go team, and then I'm just like, no, I'm still in the middle of the 2 teams. So how many Cubs fans here? Brewers fans? Are we a little heavier on? Don't care? Who doesn't care? That's funny. No, it's a great detour, Bryce. Thank you. Does it feel like it's a pretty sportsy area though? Doesn't it? Football? Okay, what are the options? Packers or Bears? Okay, Packers, who are you? Packer fan? Bears? Okay.
Don't care.
Don't care? I mean, I kind of get it. We had like the Niners and the Raiders, and we have like the A's and the Giants. Like we have the Battle of the Bays, so they're like right literally across the street from each other. It's like, so I get it. I'll go to either. Anyway, moving on. So why else don't you get voice lessons?
No time.
No time. That one's always fun for me. I'll pause. Why else? I'll come back to that. No time, no money. They just don't know. Yeah. They don't know that it's a thing. Totally. No time, no money. I'm going to talk about those in a second. Yeah?
Like if you're a kid, you don't know how to speak Spanish.
Just speak up a little bit.
Sorry. Like if you're already doing like choir or something.
If you're already doing choir or something, you're like, oh, I'm totally doing it. Yeah. Yeah. I'll speak to that real briefly. Choir is awesome for learning harmonies. It's not awesome for learning a lot of vocal control for as a lead instrument. So it's good choir is great if you're training to blend. It's not as great as if you're training to lead, because it's teaching you to blend. It's teaching you how to sound like everyone else rather than to sound like yourself, if that makes sense. So, but that's a good point. Anything else? Yeah. It's vulnerable. Yeah. I would say like half of my lessons turn into like mini counseling appointments. I'm not kidding. I'm not naming names. No, I would say that's true because it's really vulnerable. And it's kind of wild how personal it is compared and like what we feel like our voice is saying about us. So if there's something that needs to be critiqued, because often it's wild how much it relates. So for example, if you're an uptight person, if you're just like stressed a lot and anxiety a lot, and that'll come out in your singing. So we're like, hey, let's try to relax. And it's awesome how much what will teach your body has a lot to do with what you're actually going through as a person, how you process life. So that's a good point. Anything else?
I think people rely on anointing, like that to do it.
Yes.
Default to that instead of putting the word.
Yes. Rely on anointing and default to anointing rather than stewarding your gift. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of, so it's kind of a perfect storm of vocal just terribleness is I want to be anointed and I want to be passionate, and typically that comes out in it's authentic to scream, right? It's authentic to I just want to get loud. And it's one of those things I think in the same way, this is not my idea, but whenever they were building the tabernacle, God was, oh, this is so, can I just, 2 seconds? So whenever they were building the tabernacle, let's do you want to take 2 minutes? So, she's so fast, wow. She's an athlete, look at her. So whenever they were building the tabernacle, the Lord, he brought up a certain group of people, and they were called craftsmen. And these craftsmen were the ones in charge of ladening things with gold, or making the staffs, making the lampstands, all of these things. And the idea was their craftsmanship is what the Lord existed inside of in the desert, right? That's the tabernacles where he abided with the Israelites. And this idea of the craftsmanship is what he lived in. And if you've heard, I don't know, I think it might just be because I'm who I am, but I think I listen to Coldplay and there's an amount of craftsmanship that I can feel inside of the Lord as well. Does that make sense? So this idea of craftsmanship, the Lord rides on it. He lives in it. He exists in it. He's not afraid of it. He actually chose a certain group of people to breathe on and inspire to create the very thing that he would live inside of while he was on the earth. Does that make sense? And so this idea that my anointing, it's anointed, it's not good. That feels, does that make sense? It's not, it doesn't sound good, but it's anointed. And I think we've made that, and because I completely agree. It's like, I listen to certain people, I'm like, dude, I'm weeping. They don't sound amazing, but God is touching it right now. And I think that there's a certain amount of, we live in, there is grace, right? Grace to do what you couldn't do 5 seconds before is what God empowers you to do, but there is this amount of, don't think he's afraid of hard work. I don't think he's afraid of being a craft. It's your craft. It's so excellence in that way is super important. But there is this feeling of it has to be separated somehow. But you don't have that with an electric guitar player. He's so bad, but I feel God. It's like, no, it's just bad. I just can't. It's just not good. Like, it's just bad. And I don't mean to single you out when you play electric guitar, but no, but there is this sense of, yeah, I completely agree with that. So kind of, can I do both? I think Joe says this sometimes, but the idea that what if your worship was, in a sense, you're becoming excellent at your craft, of giving the Lord something that you've given him time, you've given energy. It's not only, I'm just going to lean on you and hope it works, Lord. It's like, no, Lord, I've given, this is bringing the Lord something you've spent time and energy into as a way of worship, not only just, if I crack, it's my offering, kind of thing. So.
Amen. This is sort of on topic and sort of off topic, but the idea, Bill, our pastor, says something that I always think is funny. When people are like, that was a great job, and he's like, and the person responds, it was the Lord. And Bill's like, well, if it was the Lord, it probably would have been a lot better. thought. Okay, thank you. Affirmation. All right. Oh, I wanted to speak to the time and money, and then we're going to jump into like technique and the physiology of the voice. So, the time and money thing, what I normally say is, if we have time to be on stage, then we have time to steward being on stage. If we have time to lead people, we have time to grow in how we're leading people. It's stewardship. It's the parable of the talents. It's like, oh yeah, he gave me talent, and I just, maybe you didn't bury it, but you didn't like invest it. It's like in your pocket. You're like, oh what? He gave it to me. I got it. I'm moving on with my life. But imagine, like, the Lord does value stewardship. He really values investing into something that He gave you as a gift. And, the parable of the talents, I just love that it's called talents. It's like He's giving you talent to invest in growing it. And I think it's like it's a directive. It's like, go grow it. So as far as time and money, what I love to say about that is like, are there any guitar players in here? Okay, how much have you guys paid for your guitars? Tell me. You throw out some numbers. Just $500 for a guitar, okay? All right. Hey guys, how much do you think you've paid over the last year or last 5 years on strings, guitar? Actually, let's do this. Just in general, lessons, strings, guitars, guitar maintenance, like hundreds, thousands? Thousands?
There's a little bit of shame over here. He's like, oh, that's money.
Okay, and same thing, drummers, Danny, how often do you buy new sticks?
Like
Every what?
every 2 weeks or something.
Mm-hmm.
Every 2 weeks. How much are sticks?
$10.
$10. Every 2 weeks you're spending $10.
Yeah.
So that's like $20 a month. Over the course of a year, $240 a year. All right, that's like a month of voice lessons. Well, depending on that's a few months. So a month with me, a couple months with him.
A year.
A year with Bryce. One month with
2020, let's go.
But depending on who you're with, like they're spending that in a year. So, and how many years, like Danny, how many years have you been playing? How many years have you been spending $20 a month?
Like 12.
12 years.
Yeah.
So, whatever that is, $240 a year times 12 years. So, we're over $1,000. So, and that's just sticks. Like, have you ever invested in a snare and cymbals? How much do you think? Yeah, Josh. How much have you guys spent over the course of the last 10 years? $8,000. $8,000. Because you're paying for cymbals, you're paying for snares, you're paying for the whole kit, you're paying for, a carrying case for your sticks. Like, I had a student that lost their carrying case on the way to Australia one year, and he was devastated. It was like real leather. He was practically in tears. It was very sad. But then the Lord found it. It was actually miraculous. So any of you that lose your precious items, I pray that they're returned in Jesus' name. That was a word for someone today. So, I think you hear my point. Thousands of dollars are being spent on maintenance. Thousands. And their maintenance, they can replace their sticks. Again, we cannot replace these things, and we're not maintaining them. Once they're done, there's not a time, there's vocal recovery, there is. But as we age, there's wear and tear anyway. So, but haven't you seen those 80-year-old ladies that are buff and doing yoga? Right? Have you guys seen those videos? Or they're running marathons? It's let's be that 80-year-old lady with our vocal cords. Let's not be wear and tear. And we're in a wheelchair at 80, with our vocal cords. Our vocal cords, we don't want our vocal cords in a wheelchair. We want them doing yoga, running marathons. We do. So, as far as time and money, we always have time for what we prioritize. We always have time for what's important. The problem isn't that we don't have time. The problem is it's not important yet. So hopefully after today, it will feel more important. That's my hope. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Great, I just want to jump in then to technique and physiology of the voice. After that, we're going to do like an activation where I'll pull some of you and bring you on stage and do some kind of showing you how the things we're talking about actually manifest in the voice. And then we'll do some Q&A. We'll talk about vocal health and tips and tricks. So that's kind of the outline of the day. So right now we're going to jump into technique. Before that, do you have any thoughts? You good? Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. Here we go. So, great technique gives us the ability to sing in our most true and natural voice, allowing us to sing what we want, when we want, how we want, while staying healthy, strong, and in control long term. So the whole point is we just want to do what is on our heart to do. And it lasts and be awesome. Like, that's the point. So in order to do that, we need to have good technique. I'll speak of the voice like vocal athletes. If we're not using our body accurately, we're going to end up with back pain in 10 years, right? So we have to know how to use what we got, and we do that by technique. Technique is not a style. It can be applied to any style, whereas classical is a technique and a style. Classical style is like more like opera, more like singing arias. Sometimes musical theater can be a little bit lumped in the classical direction. But classical is a style and a technique. It's the way that you're singing. Whereas technique, in general, can be applied to any style. Pop, R&B, country, indie, worship. Like, good technique doesn't have to limit you to a style, is the point, like classical. It enables people to sing easily and free with the strength that they're capable of. And the overall goal is balance, a balance of air, muscle, vocal cord closure, larynx placement, and we'll talk about all these things in a minute, because it's all the anatomy. And I kind of alluded to this earlier, but yeah, the whole point is to sing without overthinking and focus on what you want to focus on, which is worship. So that's the whole point. How do we get this thing to work at optimum without thinking about it? So there's 4 stages of learning. I don't know, some of you may have heard of these already, but the 4 stages of learning begin with stage 1, which is unconscious incompetence. It means that you don't know what the heck you're doing. You don't know what you're doing right. You don't know what you're doing wrong. Are you nailing it? Is this a problem area? Is this helpful? Is this harmful? You don't know what you don't know. That's stage 1, unconscious incompetence. Stage 2 is conscious incompetence. It's where you start learning about your instrument, your voice, and you're like, oh, my airflow is messed up. Oh, my larynx is raising. Oh, I'm using all these extrinsic muscles. Oh, I'm doing this wrong, and this wrong, and this wrong, and this wrong. So you become aware, conscious of your incompetence. That's stage 2 of learning. Stage 3 is conscious competence, where you're like, okay, cool, my airflow, okay, I need to close my cords harder, and okay, how do I do that? Oh, I do that by, using this exercise and this feeling, and oh, my larynx is raising again. How do I keep it down? Oh, if I make this sound and this feeling, it can drop. Cool, wow, that feels better. So now you become consciously aware of how to be competent. That's stage 3. And we all think we're in stage 3 currently, but often we're still in stage 1, where we don't know what the heck we're doing, right and wrong. So stage 3 is conscious competence. Stage 4 is our favorite, unconscious competence. It means we're not even thinking about it and we're doing it right. Yay! Second nature. It's where it becomes second nature. So you have to understand the stages of learning, because the stages of learning will give us hope when we're like, what is that? Does that feel good? I don't know. What is that bad? Is that healthy? Is it unhealthy? I don't know. Moving from that to like, oh yeah, I can feel that. That's not good. Oh wow, that does feel tight. Moving to, oh, that feels tight. Wait, if I do this, there it is. Awesome. Now I know what to do. To, I'm not even thinking about it. So it's really important to understand the stages of learning, especially as we go today, because we're going to learn some of these things, and it's going to feel like, what the heck do I do with this? And that's exactly it. You're moving from, I don't know, to like, oh, I know, but what the heck? So that's okay if we only get to stage 2 today. I think we'll get in some way to stage 3, and stage 4 will happen if you start to invest in your instrument and take lessons. That's how we get to stage 4. because we work on implementing it and everything. So, what is singing on a physical level? So there's 3 parts to the human voice. There's airflow, which is like your lungs and your diaphragm. We'll talk about that. There's vocal cord closure, which relates to your larynx, which is your voice box, and the location of your larynx, the placement. And then there's your vocal articulators. So vocal articulators are your tongue, palate, cheeks, lips. It's what you make sound with. It's like the last filter that your sound goes through before it comes out of your mouth. So like, we all know what our cheeks and our lips and our tongue feels like, but our palate is the feeling of the roof of your mouth. So put your thumb on the roof of your mouth and you can feel your hard palate. And then slide it back a little bit without gagging yourself. You feel it get soft. No, Manny, no. Yeah. But, so even when sound vibrates, off the top, vibrating off the top, it's in the back now, so knowing where, and do that with me, go, you can kind of feel it, it kind of vibrates off the top, and they go, like a Mickey Mouse, go, yeah, or like, yeah, no, that's good. So that's the soft palate. So based on where the sound is kind of vibrating from, and there's a lot of other components that are happening here that, the larynx placement and the vocal cord closure and all of that. But those are your palates. So having an awareness of this is great. It's not going to be something that we talk about a lot. Where in classical we'll say, hard palate this, soft palate that. We're not going to talk about it. It's just good to have an awareness in general. Okay, so airflow, lungs and diaphragm. I like when Bryce is here because then he teaches on it and I like the way he teaches on it. So do you want to just do the whole thing? I'll just do that one. I'll do the hot air compression and then, yeah, you do the rest.
Yeah, so how many of us have in some way heard, like, breathe from your diaphragm, or use your diaphragm, or this diaphragm thing, right? Forehands grow up. No, but so this is this idea that in some way the diaphragm is going to help me on an exhale, like creating sound. So we start with an inhale, right? Everybody breathing. Right, so what's happening right now, as you're breathing in, is you have, wish I had a third hand. A third hand. Yes, so give me this hand. Yeah, so this is let's say this is your left lung, this is your right lung. They're just hanging out. And then beneath it, you have your diaphragm. What the diaphragm is like this bell-shaped muscle. And when it contracts, it pulls the lungs open, and you breathe in. And then when you exhale, it releases, and the lungs get smaller again, and the air leaves. So all the diaphragm is doing is it's opening room for air to come in, and then when you don't want that air anymore, it relaxes and the air leaves. And so whenever we're talking about a forceful, let me rewind. So when it comes to use your diaphragm, you're always doing it. It's very simple. You do it without thinking. That's very important that you do it without thinking, because we couldn't do anything else in our lives. Okay, breathe in. Okay, breathe out. What are you saying? Just a second. Okay, what? It'd be impossible to do anything. So I think the idea that, use your diaphragm, there's this overcomplication when it comes to breathing within singing, that I'm not getting enough breath. It's like, you're getting plenty of breath. You weren't getting enough breath, you pass out. So don't worry about that. Chill out a little bit. And let's have a different conversation, and I think that's the one Joe's going to have with the air leaving. What are you talking about then when you're talking about, I need more sound, I need consistent sound, what am I using there in order to get that?
Keep going. Just do the whole thing.
Great. Thank you. Wow. So now when we're talking about a forceful exhalation, air leaving, that's what we need when we have energy leaving the vocal cords, energy leaving the lungs with air, going through the vocal cords. You have the vocal cords vibrating in the larynx. Everybody take 4 fingers and swallow.
Wait, not that part?
Not that part.
That's my part.
Oh, wait.
No, the whole,
Keep talking.
yeah, the compression. So, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, yeah, okay, cool. Don't do that. Don't put your You didn't do that. So instead, when we're talking about air leaving, we're talking about these, we'll call them intercostal muscles. These muscles, like your abs, basically.
We'll call them abs.
We'll call them abs.
Nerd Bryce.
Yeah,
Just
so
kidding. I love it.
That's great.
Wait, did you study, is it to be a nurse? Is
I
that
did,
what-
I
he was,
did.
He was doing nursing.
Don't laugh so hard. Super ashamed.
That's not true.
Yes, I am.
That is not true. Yeah, no, but it was cool because when we started working together and I was like, oh, I hate this stupid diaphragm stuff. Just because of how it's been taught, and it's been this like big deal. And I mean, I would say at least 50% of the time when people come into me and for a voice lesson for the first time, I'm like, great, why are you here? What can I help you with? They're like, oh, my breathing. And I'm like, are you having trouble breathing? And they're like, but somewhere along the line, it has been taught that this is all about breathing. This is all about your breath. This is all about your breath support. Because that's what classical teaches. This isn't about your breathing. This is about your muscles. This is about how your muscles affect the energy, the pressure, the air pressure. So I just want you to elaborate. So as we were learning this, and I'm like trying to dive in a little bit deeper to the message of the diaphragm and what does it actually mean and look like, I learned that Bryce is really good at anatomy, and his whole understanding of it is just like awesome, which is why when we travel, I have him teach it because I think it's great. So he'll use nerdy words like intercostal muscles, and I'm like, it's your abs. So,
It's your abs. It's just your abs. That's good.
So talk about the abs.
Yeah.
Why are they important for you?
Yeah. One, let's just do something super quick. I want you to put one hand here, and I just want you to, kind of like you're mad, say, hey! Hey! Does anyone feel anything going on? Right? So that's kind of what we're talking about when people say use your diaphragm. This is not, it's like, it's just the wrong word, right? It can get confusing of what is, and then where do I put it? No, this guy is getting involved, these abs, in closing the ribs so that the air goes quickly through the vocal cords.
It creates more pressure.
Creates more pressure,
Yeah.
more energy, so we can get, hey, out instead of, hey, if nothing's happening. It's very soft. Mine is very soft right now.
And it seems that you have done it.
I did eat it. But so did, where's Dustin? Where's Dustin?
But so did
Hey, and he's ripped, so if he did it, so, I don't know, just
What
follow
were we
his
talking
lead, I
about?
don't know.
abs.
Yeah, sorry about abs. So yeah, so yeah.
I have a drink.
Okay, sorry. So that energy here we're creating, if we don't have it for the voice, a lot of times we rely on this guy to create energy, and that's when it gets fatigued, versus getting energy from here, and then moderating that energy here is way more successful for longevity than
Yes.
nothing.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So it's like the idea is accurate. There is a support system down here, but it's not in the technique that I grew up with Dave Stroud the last, whatever, 10, 20 years. Over the course of that time, it was one of those things where it wasn't emphasized, because if you're emphasizing breathing, you're actually creating tension. And imagine if you're like holding your breath. So yes, it's about breath, because if I'm holding my breath, it's like, oh gosh, I don't have any, it feels like I don't have any air because I'm holding my breath. Plenty of air, I'm not, versus, so if you're not letting enough out, it's straining because I'm literally holding my breath. So there is something to breathing, but it's like, just breathe. So when we're talking about breathing and creating something, we're just, it's too much attention on the breathing mechanism, which we already do naturally really well. So one thing that you'll notice, if you go home or anywhere that you lay down on your back, you'll recognize your belly is lifting and raising versus your lungs. And often when we stand up, our lungs are lifting and raising. So I think there's a component to that as well, being more active in like deeper breathing. That's great. It's just not something that we need to focus on. We need to focus on the energy, like what Bryce is talking about. So one way to feel that, put one hand on your belly, and one hand in front of your mouth, and just go. You're gonna feel hot air. Feel what your belly is doing. Is it kind of fluffy? Get a little fluffy. except for Dusty or Dustin, what's your name?
Sorry, I didn't.
So, feels like it gets a little fluffy, right? Put your hand there again and go. You feel cool air, okay? And what does your belly do? It's engaging. It's not actually gripping, it's just activating. That's actually the kind of compression when Bryce said, hey, that's the same thing. So it's not that the air has to be hot when it comes out of your mouth or cold when it comes out of your mouth, or one or the other is better. It's just a different kind of, we're using different muscles, and is fluffy. Okay, so it's all about energy. So that said, a lot of people will think, oh, I don't want to strain, so I'll use more air. And it's like, yes, you're running out of air. Like, yes, that's like, if I was going to talk like this, I can't make it through much. You know what I mean? I can say a lot. Let's see how much of the alphabet I can get through in one normal breath. Not. When I start thinking about breathing, I'm like, no. And that's most of us. When we start thinking about breathing, we're like, oh gosh, how do I do this? So in one normal breath, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Okay, I can at least get through 3. I probably could have done 3.5 if I didn't race. But I can do at least 3.5 alphabets in one breath. I didn't take a breath. I wasn't stressed about it, not worried about it. That's plenty of time for most lines in most songs that we're doing. So if we're like, in between, we're doing something wrong. But it's not necessarily the breathing, it's like an airflow situation. But it's not in the way where it's like, we just don't want to, I'm like, we don't want to over-focus on it, and here we are talking about it for 20 minutes. But I want to talk about it for 20 minutes to undo. I'm not thinking about it when I'm saying the alphabet 3 times in a row. We don't have to think about it unless we're doing something. If you're whispering all day, whisper singing, you're going to lose all your air, your normal airflow. You're losing it, you're spending it all. Okay? If you're holding your breath, you're restricting it. That's the simplicity of it. You don't want to restrict and hold your breath. You don't want to get whispery. And a lot of us do both. A lot of us squeeze, or a lot of us are too breathy. So we just want to find what's called medial compression. It's just, if it's too light, if it's too hard, okay? If it's right in the middle, it's just like this. So we'll get to that, and I'll have you guys feel it. That's where the straw creates the ideal vocal environment to build the mix. We haven't talked about mix yet, but the mix is the middle range. We have chest voice, head voice, and mix. So I'll show you right now. So everyone do what Bryce did earlier. Hey! Hey! Good. Now if you're going, hey, that's not chest voice. Put your hand on your chest and feel it. Hey! Hey! Make it a little football coachy. Hey! Hey! If you feel it kind of vibrate in your chest, put your other hand on your head. So, and feel hey one more time. Hey! Hey! And then go, woo! Woo! Do you feel woo? Kind of vibrates up here. Hey! Vibrates up here. Good. So you can put your hands down. That's the difference between chest voice and head voice. So if I'm singing, what were we doing yesterday? Promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. That's chest. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. That's head voice. So it's using, there's chest voice muscle, there's a head voice muscle. It's letting go of the chest voice muscle and using the head voice muscle. We're not going to get into that today. I don't think that it's super relevant unless somebody needs to know. Then usually we'll explain it in a voice lesson. For the most part, it's just feeling it. The point is feeling it, not necessarily understanding how it works. Sometimes the more information you have, the more confusing it gets, and it's pointless. We just want to know how to do it better. So that's the difference between chest and head. But then there's an area called the mix that a lot of people don't have. So they have chest and head. They have 2 separate voices. But in the middle, it's usually kind of a whiny space. And when we learn how to sing it, it sounds good. But everyone go, hey! Hey! So we don't want, hey! That's head voice. And we don't want, hey! That's a pulled chest voice. We want it whiny. Say, no, no, no! No, no, no! So a lot of you are really sweet. No, no, no! That's head voice. We want it, no! Say it like you're mad and you're 5 and someone took your bike! No! Shake your finger! in mix, what's like a, I don't know if you guys know Mercy by Amanda Cook, but there's verse 2. Have you heard of Amanda Cook? So there's this song, you delight in showing, you delight in showing mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment is the chorus. And then verse 2, oh love, no, I'll do it. Oh love, great love, fear cannot be found in you. It's very whiny, but it doesn't, you're not like, oh, she's so whiny. You might be because I told you to listen for it, but oh love, great love. I could do pulled chest. Oh love, no thank you. Or I could do head voice. Oh love, great love, and flip. Or love, great love, and not flip. But most people will do that. They'll have one or the other. So mix is in the middle. Oh great love, no! Hear the resemblance? Thank you. I can't bow. Good morning. No, but does that make sense? It's the whiny space, and when we learn how to access it and use it, it actually becomes a really powerful middle called the mix. So I brought that up a little early just because in my notes, the straw is the ideal environment to build the mix. Instead of when you're blowing through the straw. Yeah, or the V instead of breathy. Try it. So you'll feel your abs engage. Do your chest whispers. Football coach. So keep that feeling of football coach. Yeah, and it can be, so the straw can help with that. When you look up Titsa straw exercise on YouTube, he'll show you how it works. And then, we'll also we'll activate it a little bit more later, which is normally when I do it. However, that's everything. That's a little bit more about the airflow with the lungs and the diaphragm, feeling your belly activate. And again, when you say, hey, you can feel, everyone do it one more time. Hey! Hey! Do it with a little punch in your arm. Hey! Hey! Yeah, the cool thing, I often have people use their arm to throw. I say this thing about darts. Pretend that you're throwing a dart, because if you think about airflow or sound, directional sound, it's like throwing a dart. If you have pressure and no release, the dart stays in my hand. Pressure and no release. If you have release and no pressure, the dart falls to the ground. You want pressure and release. Hey! You want it together, because that's how you're going to get sound that travels without feeling stuck. If I have pressure and no release, hey! Release, no pressure, hey! We want pressure and release together. So when we're not using our body, our vocal cords will mimic our body. So it's a very cool tool, because if I go, hey, my vocal cords are mimicking what my hand is doing, which is pressure and release. If I'm not, I'm going to default to an old pattern, which might be squeezing or breathy, one or the other, or too far to one side. So again, that has more to do with airflow, but the second component is vocal cord closure and larynx placement. So your larynx is your voice box. Put 4 fingers on your throat and swallow. You feel your larynx, it moves, it goes whoop. You feel it? Okay, now keep your hand there and go, pretend you're like Kermit. It hikes, do you feel that? And pretend you're a Disney character. Try it. But you guys try to sound too pretty. I want you to sound like your 7-year-old girl. Do you feel it hike a little bit? Some of the guys, So your larynx is hiking. Okay, so what's the other one I do normally? Little girl, Kermit. Oh, nasally and throaty. So yeah, Kermit's throaty, but yeah, nasally. So larynx is going up. Now, do this, Santa. Ho, ho, ho. You feel it drop? Yeah. Whoa. Whoa. Hey, boo boo. Hey, boo. I like this class because you can just do what I tell you. It's amazing. But you can feel the larynx drop. Hey! Ah! Oh! Ah! Oh! You can feel it. But watch, here's the... I never did that one. I like that one though. But here's the thing. You can keep the pitch the same, but the larynx changes. So if I'm going, I can go, same notes, I didn't change the octave. Or in the middle, in the middle. And we want it in the middle. We don't want it hiking and throaty and nasal and girly and Disney and all the things. And we don't want it low and Santa. I mean, a little bit low is cool, either for men or for like a little bit more gospel. Like, yeah, that song that I was bringing up yesterday about mountains are still being moved. Tasha Cobbs does it. Strongholds are still being loosed. Or instead of strongholds are still being loosed. It's a different larynx placement. It's the same thing. Strongholds are still being loosed. It's different. Just because of larynx placement. So it's awesome to learn about larynx placement because it completely changes the texture of the sound. And a lot of us don't know that our larynx is hiking. And often what happens is the higher we go, the higher the larynx goes. So we're totally fine on the low end. Mountains are still being moved. Right in the middle. Stronghold is still, get a little, stronghold is still being loosed. And then, if I did higher, I don't know. We are here. I'll change the key. We are here for you. Versus dropping it. The higher we go, we want to drop it. We are here for you. Come and do what you do. Instead, we are here for tight, high larynx. You come and do. Does that make sense? I know you guys don't know the song probably because it's like brand new, like a week old, but it's still a cool song. Has anyone heard it? Yeah. Very cool. It's like probably my favorite song right now. Other than Promises. What? We love it. Okay, so we're talking about vocal cord closure and larynx placement. So you have two vocal cords. They vibrate to make sound. Will you show them what the vocal cords do to vibrate? Yes, they flap like that.
Stop. I love it. You guys, look. Yes. Actually, I like you more. Wow. It's working.
So they vibrate to create sound, and that's kind of what they look like. They're not vertical, they're horizontal. So the air comes up through the larynx from your lungs into your windpipe, and they cross over your vocal cords that flap this way. Air comes up through the mouth, out the mouth. That's how sound is made. So, we kind of did it earlier with hey, but I want you to feel a pure vocal cord closure. So we're going to do a karate chop and go ha! But then hold it. You're going to feel it's like you're holding your breath. And as your breath is held, your vocal cords are staying together. So karate chop, ha! And you can't talk. If you were to talk, now your vocal cords are opening, because that's how sound is made, by them opening. You can't breathe either, because that's how you breathe, is through that space. It's just that your vocal cords aren't closing when you're breathing. That's why no sound is being made. So, ha! I can't do anything. I can't talk because I'm holding my vocal cords together. Now, it's important to recognize that feeling because a lot of us, when we sing, ha, ha, mountains are still being moved. I'm already out of there. So, vocal cord closure is just feeling the feeling of them closing. Another way to do that is go, bratty kid, go, So you're feeling, rev up the engine of the car. You're feeling your vocal cords vibrating at a better pressure, better compression. If it's breathy, and all that air is coming out your nose, if it's breathy, you'll feel less of a pressure. If it has more voice, there's more pressure. So another way, any kind of like, pretend you're hitting the buzzer, go nice and nasal, and use your hand. I like when we use our body, it helps. Because again, if we're not using our body, we're actually using some other way to tense up, to add support. So this will help you relax in your body if you use your hand. larynx is relaxed, your vocal cords vibrate freely and hit pitches easily, like you heard me do. We are here for you. Instead of we are here for you. Come and do, come. When it's not relaxed, it's stressful. So you hear that, and so it's so cool. Just this one. So this is where we're moving from stage 1, unconscious incompetence, to like stage 2, conscious incompetence. Like, whoa, I don't know how to do anything with my larynx. Now I just know that it moves and makes different sounds. Cool. So we don't know how to do it yet, but we will. It's very exciting. Okay, when it's not relaxed, outer muscles prevent the vocal cord freedom and causes unnecessary tension in the resonating system. Bryce was talking about this earlier. When we're not using our support system, our ha, hey, abs, then our neck muscles come into play and we're trying to help us. Instead, it's just creating a lot of tension. Everything that's supposed to work in here really smooth is like all gripped up. And it can't do what it's meant to do because we're trying to add that support through tension in the throat, and it doesn't help. It makes it harder. Okay, so that's really the anatomy of the voice on a physical level and like in a simple way that applies to singing. So I'll pause for a second if there's any questions or if you have anything to add. Are there any questions so far? Or thoughts? Like, what if I like sounding like Herman?
Like, I was just thinking, like, I feel like it's a lot of, I've heard, deep breath, you can control your body, but it doesn't come out so strong. Like, what's that?
Breathy and volume. Volume and intensity are completely different. So here's the thing, and this is huge, but if you're using, so intensity and breathy is in the same category. You're lightening your intensity to lower your volume. You don't have to do that. You can tell, because if you're really mad and you don't want to be loud and have people see that you're mad, you're intense, but you're not breathy. I'm so mad at you right now, you can hear it in my voice, but I'm not whispering at all. I'm talking really intensely, but I'm not loud at all. I'm not even yelling, but you can hear it in my voice, right? You hear the intensity, but the volume isn't up. So, if I want to sing, is there another song? I mean, I'm just stuck on this song. Is there another song that... Okay, Jesus, we love you. Our affection, our devotion, pour out on the feet of Jesus. Okay, I'm running out of air, and I'm pitchy. And they're like, oh, well, if it's not breathy, our affection. Well, is there another option? I'm gonna make it a little hard. Our affection, our devotion, poured out on the feet of Jesus. I'm not whispering. I'm not breathy, and I'm not blasting. Our devotion. I sound a little bit mad about it, but you can't really tell because I love the song. Our affection. Does that make sense? Jesus, we love you. Oh, how we love you. I'm not. Jesus, we love you. I'm not using volume. Oh, how we love you. Or whisper. Does that make sense? So this is huge. We run into this at worship school. We like end up with no voices at the end of worship school because we're like teaching people to make sound. Because they're like, feet of Jesus. And I'm like, close your vocal cords, girl. Feet of Jesus. And she's like, I'm yelling. No, you are closing your vocal cords. And this feels like yelling. Our devotion poured out on. And sometimes we have to overdo it to just feel it. Feet of Jesus, our affection. Fine. If we have to start by giving it a little more and then backing off and getting a little, because sometimes we won't have the control straight away. We have to learn how to get the cords closed first, and then we can learn how to close them. But the best way that I think is pretend you're fighting with someone you love and there's a baby sleeping and you don't want to wake the baby. You're like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you just said that, right? Those of you with kids are like, totally. So that's the idea. Do you have thoughts?
Yes. So volume is its own category. Whispering, this breathier thing is a texture. I think it's beautiful to have a breathier tone in your singing when you know you're doing it and you can stop it. It's just another tool in your tool to pull out, to emote, because that's what we're doing. We're serving a song. What she was doing was she was serving the moment. There's also other times, and so I'll ask people, do you know that you're being breathy? And they'll say no. It's like, do you want to be breathy? Well, I like the way I sing. It's like, I do too. I just don't think it's going to serve you forever. Like Jonathan, anyway, moving on. Anyway, some people like more of like a intense kind of a growl in there. It's fine until it just doesn't work anymore. So what we want to do is we want to give you, I think a lot of people, and you kind of touched on it, I like the way this sounds. And I'm like, yes, it just won't sound good forever. And we want to create, we want to do technique, we want to do foundations, and then we want to add the fun stuff later. And some people are skipping straight to the fun stuff and ruining a lot of things with extra breath, extra tension, because it's their sound. And that's fine. I just want it to be, let's do this first.
And I would say the same thing with volume. There's this really cool video that we watched. I need to remember what her name is, but it's an American woman, but she's in Italy, and she's teaching in Italian. It's super awesome. And she's teaching this woman how to sing. There's like a Whitney Houston song, and she's talking about volume because it's okay to give. On the other side, it's okay to give volume in moments. You don't want your volume options to be 10 or 4. You want to have 5, 6, 7, and 8. So what was the song? Do you remember? Dang
Was it Whitney?
it. It was Whitney.
Bodyguard?
Huh? Dang it, I don't remember. But I don't remember. Anyway, so do we have any like diva songs like that in worship? Any like? I'm sure we do. What? Okay. Anyway, the point is. I don't know the Bahar. Just give me 1 second. Okay, if we did Whitney. So it's the idea of not every note is the big and I will always love you. See, she'll go ooh, and she'll go sweet first, and she's not going ah like every note. It's too much. It's too much. So you have to know where to give it the volume and where to back off, because a lot of people will always love like the whole thing. How about just do it on the word I? And I will always, and you back off. But rather than the whole entire phrase being in a 10, it's just that one word, and then the rest of it's at like an 8. So volume is it's a good tool to be aware of in terms of not using too much. In terms of, hey, we can be big without being at a 10, volume-wise. Does that make sense? Okay, so I want to talk about volume. The volume question is really important. Oh, and what Bryce said, just to reiterate, using breathiness also as a tool, not as a default. Breathiness as a default will thrash your vocal cords. Breathiness as a color, as a texture, as a tool, as a piece is great. So even if tremble is probably a good one. Do you guys know that one? Yeah. So there's like the big parts, your name, and then there's Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. It's a little bit halfway between the Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. There might be a moment, you make the darkness tremble. That's fine, totally fine. I'm just not gonna sing the whole thing like that all the time. I'm just gonna sing like in the moment where I'm like bringing it the lowest and like nobody's playing anymore. It's just like so low. Great. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to talk about vowels. Vowels are such a big deal, and we're learning more about vowels. This is one of the new things as we started training with Dave again and doing this like vocology and practice community. In the technique that I did for like 10 years before that, speech level singing, everything was about narrowing the vowel, which is awesome to learn how to do. But wide vowels can be healthy too. You just have to learn what to use when, how to use it to make it healthy. So for example, even just follow me, and and or listen to me real quick, and then I'll have you do it with me. But say E-A-O. When you listen, E has kind of a higher harmonic sound. E, same thing on ooh. It's a little more drummy, a little more bassy. Same note, different vowel. Only thing that's changing is the vowel. E, more twangy, more bright. Ooh, ooh. Now I could probably go ooh and put it in the same place, ooh in the E place, but just naturally, E, the way my where my larynx goes, the way my tongue is shaped, the space in my mouth, the space in my throat creates a different kind of harmonic sound. E, ooh, just naturally. So being aware of that when you're singing. So Jesus in treble is actually pretty hard. Jesus, because you're like squeezy. So if you actually change the vowel, narrow it a little bit, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And it doesn't, when you actually sing it like that, nobody's going, why is she saying Jesus? They're just like, oh sweet, she can hit that note without sounding constipated. That's so cool. I mean, it's true. It's true. It can get really, so it's about vowel shift, because at high, that vowel, that high G can get stuck. However, the A is a little more open. So if I go, I'll say this. Narrow vowels will facilitate more release through your range. Ooh. Versus a wide vowel will facilitate hanging on to chest voice longer. Ah! You can hear ah! Ah! More chest voice, more mix. Ah! More chest voice. Ooh! Ooh wants to go to head voice way sooner. Does that make sense? Are you kind of, so being aware, oh, narrow vowels want to be heady. So that's why a lot of people will, what's the word? Is it I? No. There's a word, a lot of times people, sometimes it's I. Yeah. So I can be wide. It's a diphthong, which means it has two vowels in the one I. So you can hang on I and put the E right at the end, or a lot of people go I and completely changes the sound of the voice and what's being projected. So depending on what note you're on, it'll feel easier or harder. So just being aware of that. But I want you guys to do the E, A, O, with me, and I want you to pay attention to what is your tongue doing, what is your larynx doing. Is your larynx raising? Is it dropping? Is your tongue? Yeah. What? Just be aware of the changes. So follow me. E, A, O. Did you feel it? E, tongue's kind of up. E, on your teeth. Yeah. E. Yeah. E. Tongue comes down. E. And you can just say it. You don't even have to sing it. E. Yeah. Ah. The tongue kind of closes up in the back. Ah, a little bit. Ah. But it's also down in the front. Ah. Rather than E. Ah. Yeah. And then larynx is starting to drop. Ah. Larynx is dropping. Good. Oh. Larynx is dropping even more. And there's like a lot of roundness. Oh. Oh. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. Larynx is also low. So, ooh. Oh. Yeah. So this is not the kind of thing that you want to be thinking about 24/7 when you're singing. This is not the kind of thing that you want to always be aware of. It's something that you want to have an understanding of, because when you're singing and you feel stuck, sometimes the answer is change your vowel. Even though you think it's going to change the word. Like, and I will always love you. If you sing, I'm singing and ah. I'm not singing and I. So I'm singing the first part of the diphthong, I, and I will always love you. So I'm staying on the ah vowel, because ah vowel is way easier. I mean, you heard it. And I, you put the I right at the end, versus and I, it's not the same. I said it's not. Bryce goes, good. Correct, thank you. Thank you, Bryce. Yes, go. already drank more milk today. Okay. So different vowels on different pitches can create tension or release, like I was showing you. Different shapes emphasize different harmonics, which is the ooh, lower harmonics, e, higher harmonics. So harmonics just kind of mean, in this context, it means the quality of the sound. Is it brighter? Is it darker? That kind of thing. I'm not going to get into the science of harmonics at all, because I don't like science. However, speaking of harmonics, one thing that's funny, I just rearranged my living room a little bit, and I've been like remodeling it, just freshening it up, buying some plants. I just became a plant mom, we were talking about, and I have a plant nanny, which is nice, because if I didn't, I would kill them. So, my point about harmonics is not about my plants. My point about harmonics is that I moved my guitar, was hanging on the wall on one side of the room, and I moved it over by my piano. And I remembered why I didn't want it there in the first place, because I'm teaching voice lessons, and I'm like, you know, telling someone, hey! And then my guitar is like, like ringing at me, because it's like right by my face. So it's like super annoying. I hope I get used to it, because it looks really good in that corner, but we'll see what happens. But harmonics is like when something in nature, something physical, because everything physical has a frequency, it's when those frequencies resonate with each other. And so that's a part of the big picture, but I don't like the nerdy stuff. I'm not going to do it anymore over it. So narrow vowels, we said this. Okay. Narrow vowels will release the tendency to grip and stay stuck in the chest voice. They invite head voice. So that's why a lot of people will think that they have no high end. They'll be like, and they think they don't have anything up there, and then you go, woo! It's like, woo! They have way more than they thought they had. Just because their body, first of all, because you're not thinking of singing, you're thinking of just talking, making sound, so your body's like, oh yeah, I totally got that. But releases tendency to grip and stay stuck in the chest. So everyone do that, go, ooh! Start from the low and go to the high. Here we go. Ooh! Yeah, so it felt pretty smooth probably for most of us. If you're really stuck in chest, it would have been ooh, but I didn't hear any of that, so good job. Now try it on, let's try it on a wide vowel. We'll keep the chest voice engaged longer throughout the range, so it facilitates a stronger mix and more belting, which is what I showed you earlier. The cool thing about each of these is the sound will be perceived as correct, even though we're totally aware that we're changing it. But let's do ah. Ah! Keep it kind of whiny. Ah! Did you feel it was a little bit punchier in the middle than ooh? Did you feel that? If not, I'm gonna do it again. We're gonna stick our tongue out and then go ah! And this time throw something. Ah! Oh, come on, guys. So it's ugly, it's gross, it's disgusting. It's awesome. So it is, it's awesome. You're gonna feel something new. The whole point of this is so you can feel something new. So don't give up the opportunity to learn it. If you're not going to do it here, I mean, you might do it at home. You might, but do it here. Ah! Good. Did you feel it was a little beefier in the middle? Instead of ooh, ah! Do it one more time. Good. And you went from low to high most of you, without any breaks or cracks or clunks. So that was awesome. So, what? Clunks. Clunks. Yeah. Does that mean something different in Wisconsin? Okay, so one of the examples that I give is like, how great is our God? And I've already given enough, so I probably don't need to do it again. But if I narrow that, so how great is our God? It's actually fine. But if I narrow it a little bit, how great is our God? Just narrowing it, and sometimes I'll use my hands just because we don't have the self-control to narrow, or we do kissy lips. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? So, how great is our God? I actually don't mind the wide one in this particular key, but in a higher key, you might want to narrow it. Maybe if I did a higher, how great is our God? It's like starting to get reachy. How great is our God? How great, instead of vowel drops the larynx. Dropping the larynx helps everything stay optimum and free and easy. Okay? So it's not always going to be the case depending on the word, depending on how you want to sing it. But it is a really, really good tool. Okay. The goal is to use the vowel with the most freedom and then work that back toward the pure vowel of the song. So sometimes you're like, oh wow, why can I do ah on this note, but I can't do ah, or I can't do o, or I can't do e. Find the vowel where it works the best. Find the vowel that feels really good, and then slowly start to shift that toward whatever. So if I'm saying how grit, maybe G-R-I-T, how grit is our God. How great is our God, how great is our God. I'm like, okay, that feels pretty good. When how great feels a little meh. So how great is our God, how great is our God, how great is our God. Do you feel it? It's like, oh, I started in the zone and I kind of moved back toward the vowel. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. I know this is all in theory, and you guys don't get to do it all personally. Okay, so I want to talk about the voice types. Okay, here's what I think we should do. I think we should take a break, and when we come back in maybe like a 10-minute break, does that sound good? So take a 10-minute break, and when we come back from the break, I want to talk about the different voice types, people that are pulling chest, people that are like not singing strong, singing too breathy. And I want to talk about the actual fixes for each of these things, and then I want to pull people on stage for you guys so you can experience it and watch me teach how this stuff actually applies to a person. Does that sound good? Yeah. Is 10 minutes too long? Do we want to just do 5? 5? Yeah. 5-minute break. So how about 6 minutes? 11:40. Okay.
Just came out. And you were like, am I freaking out? Yeah, and you were like, I got it. I must sing, singular. You know what I mean? Yeah. John Martin's melody. John Mark Montana. I don't know if they're all just John Mark. Well, no. I feel like which one? Let me... Probably close to that. Did I? I don't know who it was. Will Reagan was it? I've heard of him. He wrote Danny, you gonna try and sing for us? Maybe that was it. It was just me. I've come to... I'm going to be like singing like their names are... The what? All like indie Christian artists. Oh yeah. Josh, Jesse. Yes, there's Josh Lucas. Or John Lucas. Josh White. Josh Hero. John Garth McMillan. John Thorpe. Oh yeah. Or maybe just John. Yeah, John. Yeah.
He literally just said, what?
What? He's like, what do you want? I was just trying to like.
Okay, so.
Sounds like a great one. You're welcome, Amanda. All my baristas, my waiters. Oh yeah. Does anyone That's an aging for no. Well, here's the thing. Where I was born, my parents, dad wanted me there. So I believe What is it like my back? Like it's like what is that movie? You do that. I mean
Check. Does the piano work? It looks like it's on. I play piano like a fourth grader, so don't judge me. I know a couple of suspended chords.
Yeah. The red, the REC is just right on the red. It freaked me out. I was like, is it? What if it was? What you guys put it on?
Are we back? Are we ready? I keep forgetting. I need to like get a song that everyone knows. What are the chords to Great Are You, Lord?
4, 6, 5.
Okay, I have to use my brain if you give me numbers. In what key do people do it in? What's the one that has like a G and a C and a... Okay. Okay. No, G? Okay. No, G what? Fifth grade. Okay, are we back? Is this entertaining? I'm entertaining myself. Okay, so how are you guys doing? burning questions so far? How do I sing better? I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so I want to talk about the four kind of, or maybe three main voice types that we encounter and experience a lot, especially with worship singers. So the first one is called pulled chest voice. The pulled chest voice is it's like we avoid, a lot of guys are more in the pulled chest category, or like belty singers. It's like we value power over everything, so we completely avoid the high end, and it's like, and there's like nothing on the high end. So we're just going up, and that hurt me. So you're like just squeezing, and then you just have nothing on the high end. You're just pulled and squeezing, constipated and shouty and all the things because you want the power, and you don't know what your other options are, because if you try to sing sweet and light, then probably not much will come out. So that's called pulled chest. You pull your chest voice up. Something that feels similar, if you were to do the scale, is a flip. So, great. You have a head voice, you have a chest voice. A big flip, they don't seem related, they seem like two separate voices. So a lot of people, they'll do a pulled chest and then kind of flip. The flip, the only difference is that they're not pulling their chest voice. As soon as they get to the point where they would start to squeeze and stretch and strain, they flip. So that's the main difference between those two. And then there's light chest or no chest. Chest voice, head voice. This is a head voice note instead of a chest voice note. Does that make sense? So a lot of worship girl singers are in this category where they feel, especially if you've been classically trained, because my head voice isn't very strong when I'm low, but some women have really strong low head voices, so they feel like they're a chest voice, but they're not. It's like, whatever, it's like, your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips, your praise, instead of your praise, ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips, your praise, right? So chest voice, head voice. So, and then when we get to the, you will be praised, pull. You will be praised, pull. Angels and saints, sorry, I'm not looking. I also feel very far away. Angels and saints, we sing, worthy, pull. Are you Lord? Or flip. What I say, we will be praised? He will be praised. Let's praise him. That's what I said yesterday about, hey, sometimes you're not theologically accurate. It's okay. The Lord will understand. We will be praised. All the earth will shout our praise. Okay. So the flip. Is it you will be praised? He will be. You? You will be praised. You will be praised. With angels and saints we sing, worthy are you, Lord. You will be praised. Two separate voices. So that's where that kind of whiny mix comes in. You will be praised. You will be praised. And it doesn't actually sound as whiny. It will sound more whiny to you right now because we're talking about it, but to everyone else it won't. You will be praised. You will be praised. With angels and saints we sing, worthy are you, Lord. You can hear it's kind of whiny. Worthy are you, Lord. It's kind of whiny. It's not worthy. I'm not going extra whiny, but I'm not going worthy tight either. Or worthy light. Okay? So, some of the fixes to some of these problems. So with a pulled chest, we want to learn to value head voice, because that's often the issue, is that they don't know how to incorporate their head voice, so they just avoid it. So step one, if you're a chest puller, is, and let's actually test you guys out. I want to see if you can figure out which one you are, and then I'll tell you the fixes. So let's start with men first. Men go, oh. It'll sound like normal for you. It sounds very low for me because it is.
most people. So I'm gonna know when you should be shifting. So actually I haven't talked about this. So there's bridges of the voice. There's specific places in the voice where the resonance shifts from one place to another. It's like driving a manual transmission vehicle versus an automatic. We want to feel like we're driving an automatic, but how many of you have driven manual transmission here? Great, more than in California. So I don't know why that is. Do you guys have trucks here and stuff? I don't know. We have trucks too, but they're automatic. So basically, when you're driving manual transmission, especially when you're learning, there's this whole balance of the clutch and the gas, and if you don't do it right, your car's like and it chunks and clumps and or it'll just stall altogether and quit, or it'll like because it's just not, the balance isn't there. That's essentially what is happening in our voice as we're changing from chest voice. So the bridges go from chest voice to a chesty mix, from a chesty mix into a heady mix, and then from a heady mix into head voice, ideally. So there's specific areas where it does that. So I'm aware of that for you guys. So what I want you to do is when you start to feel something's changing, it doesn't have to be that something clumped yet, it just, something's changing. When you start to feel like, I'm getting a little tighter, or I'm getting a little insecure, not sure what's gonna happen, but something's changing here. It's like when you're about to shift gears, you haven't shifted yet, but you need to. Start raising your hand, and I know where that is for most of you. Now, there are some guys, if you're more of a tenor naturally, you might not feel your first bridge. You might start feeling it at your second bridge. If you have a lower voice, more of a bass naturally, you'll feel your first bridge a lot more. So here we go, one more time. Woo. If you're one of the later ones to raise your hand, you might be more of a puller. Or if you were, then you're probably more light. So how many of you think you know what you are? How many of you felt like you were like hanging onto your chest voice for dear life? And you probably sing too high and too stressy, a little bit shouty. How many of you feel like, I don't really stress out, but I definitely have a break in two separate voices? And then how many of you are like, I didn't feel a break at all? Which there's a couple of reasons that would happen. One is either you're classically trained and you have like a strong blend kind of throughout your voice. One is that you weren't in chest voice in the first place, so you didn't feel any kind of break because you didn't have anything to break. And then, I guess that's about it. Is there any other reason? They wouldn't have a flip? Okay, great. So now we're gonna address those problem areas. So chest puller, we need to learn to value head voice. So those of you that quit when we're like, you're like, I don't value that doesn't sound good, there's no point. So one awesome thing is that you always have your accessible range and your usable range. Your accessible range is what you can access. It's not what you use. What you use is always going to be smaller than what you can access. So we want to grow what we can access So then we actually grow what we use. So if we go, oh, I can hit that, but I would never use it. No, you won't ever use it. But also, if you never access it, then this is your accessible range, which limits your usable range. So you want to grow and expand your range. You want to feel that. Does that make sense? So men, do it again. Woo! Woo! Do it with your arms. Woo! Yeah, so you have it. You have it. So again, you don't have to use that note in anything. I feel like there are a couple of songs these days that have really high dude notes. Are there? What's that like? Is it Touch of Heaven? It's like one of those elevation songs has like a Touch of Heaven? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, it's cool because you can access it and you can use it if you want, but you don't have to. But the point is, when you start to embrace your head voice, you get to start to blend. A mix is a blend of chest voice and head voice. You can't blend something that you don't have. If you don't have head voice, you can't blend it. So now I'll show you what mix looks like. I'll do it like a, yeah. So if I'm saying the word, and I kind of start out by a talk sing, because we talk with better vocal production often than when we speak, or when we speak than when we sing. So if I say na 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 nut, just listen to my high note. Na 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 nut, 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 na 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 nut. You can hear it start to get a little thinner. Na 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 nut, na 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 nut, na 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 nut, na 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 nut. How do you actually sing this, ladies? Sing it on off? So good. I was telling them a story how we had a choir in college they won this title in Wales called Choir of the World. And the next year is when I started going to school there. So they asked me to audition and I couldn't sight read very well. And then I told the professor, hang on one second. And then I just started whistling the notes and she was like, oh, just sight read it and whistle. And so I whistled my way into the choir. It was pretty phenomenal. I don't know what that's about, don't ask me, I don't understand. So, but if we think about it, we're like, but I literally just went, na 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 na! It's whiny, but if you think about it, it's actually kind of powerful. Nut! Like there's substance to it. Now, when you put it in song, it's going to sound even better. I don't have a song that uses that note currently in my mind. But, I don't know. Do you guys have songs that are like, I need to have like a list of songs to give examples. The point is, did you hear how in my voice it changed from talky to a little whinier? And it got whinier as it progressed, but what it didn't do, na 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 na, na 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 na, na 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 na, na 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 na, na 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 na. It didn't lift, it didn't go to head voice. It stayed in mix. It sounded almost like chest. And it actually wasn't, even though it's kind of whiny, it's not constipated. I'm not making my veins in my neck aren't popping out, my eyebrows aren't going up, I'm not standing on my tiptoes, I'm not pinching my butt cheeks. That's the thing. They used to tell us, pinch a penny with your butt cheeks. That was the thing. Part of like classical singing. It's like, they wanted to engage that. And we don't want to do that. Don't pinch any pennies. Everyone's like, okay, so that is what mix is. It's feeling all that whiny stuff in the middle, and then once you learn how to use it, then you can start to make it pretty. So it's not about starting out pretty. It's about starting out accessing something, feeling something, activating something that doesn't exist. We want to activate your mix. So that is what we do for chest pullers. We first embrace head voice, and then we actually move from maybe, instead of nothing up there, now we move to a flip. Great, now we have chest, and we're not pulling anymore, now we have head voice. Great, now that we have flip, our solution is to build the mix. So bratty is a good way, whiny kid, dopey, all of those are really good, and we've done some of those. Wide vowels are great for building building mix. Also, if we're stuck, narrow vowels are good for facilitating that even slide. Ooh, there's not a lot of flip. Ooh, chest wave. Ooh, no flip. So narrow vowels are fine for facilitating release. Wide vowels are good for building a little bit more of that mix. So everyone do that again. I want you to clap and go, hey! And keep it whiny in the top. Try it. Hey! Try it again. Hey! Good. Make sure you start with hey! A little bit more. Hey! Hey! On the bottom. Hey! Try it. Hey! There you go. Do you feel it a little bit? There's more substance in the middle when the low end starts off being activated. If it's hey, you probably don't have a lot of bratty. Does that make sense? So let's do this. Go ha, ha. Yeah, now go ha, ah, ha, ah. Good, exactly. So you're basically saying, hey, vocal cords, we're going to close with better compression now, and we're going to use that and activate the high end too. So you guys have a high end. It's great. Now it's just a matter of feeling it out. So we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of that because it's not everybody has the same problem areas, and not everybody accesses them and activates them in the same way. So the vowel that you might need might be different than the vowel that she might need, might be different than the vowel that he might need. The vowel and the consonant combination. So the actual exercise that each of you needs is different, which is why we recommend taking lessons, and we are available for those. This isn't a plug, this is just, you said, we don't know where to go. You can come to us. We would love to work with you. However, there's also, I can look up places. I just wouldn't be able to give you personal recommendation. But either way, finding somebody that can help you learn how your voice is using this stuff. You want to learn how to use this stuff and which exercises are helping you specifically. Because if I give someone a foo, 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 so like certain consonants, so for example, for the chest puller, we actually want, they're squeezing too much, we want to add more breath. So everyone do this, fee, fi, fo, fum. Fee, fi, fo, fum. Yeah, with that kind of like, hey, boo-boo kind of feeling. Fee, fi, fo, fum. Fee, fi, fo, fum. Fee, fi, fo, fum. Fee, fi, fo, fum. Yeah, exactly. Now, so if you're a chest puller, that might be great, but if you're too breathy, fee, fi, fo, fum, probably isn't the best thing for you. You might need no, 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 no. So shake your finger and be mad at the dog. It's destroying your new pair of favorite shoes. No, 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 no. Kind of bark at them. Here we go. No, 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 no. Good. So that might facilitate a little bit more mix. Does that make sense? Is this making sense? I know it's in theory and it's not directed at your voice specifically, but this is the idea of how it works. Okay, and then the no is actually great for building chest voice. So when we're singing, your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever. Okay, too much air. So we want to activate. So we go no, 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 like you're mad at the dog, with the scowl face and the finger. Let me see it. No, no, no. Come on. No, no, no. Good. And you want that energy. If you're not using your hand, you're not doing the exercise. So, and you scowl your face and say it again. No, no, no. No, no, no. Good. So, instead, your praise will ever be on my lips. No, no, no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. And yeah, sure, it's a little whiny. No. You know, I can exaggerate the whining too, and I might need to. So, but you think, oh, that's so stupid. No, no, no. But when I applied it to the song, it was like, oh, that kind of sounds good. Way better than the breathy one, right? So when you need to learn chest voice, you need to learn a little bit of this heavy, heavy oomph kind of stuff. Okay, so I want to grab a couple of you guys. Yep, and then we're going to do a couple of mock lessons, talk about vocal health, and see what kind of time we have for some of the vocal freedom stuff. So, who wants to volunteer? Mandy, why don't you pick the volunteer? / they can raise their hand and then you select. Because I don't know, you might know what might be good.
Stevie. Raise your hand. Yes, girl.
Great, so, yeah, great, let's do it. Come on up.
How many do you need?
Maybe a guy.
Johnny.
All right, Johnny. All right, come on up. Can someone grab the microphone from down there? front row, or make yourself comfortable. Okay, what's your name? Stevie, great. Do you have an idea of which one you are? You guys can have a seat just because it's going to be a few minutes.
I would say I've had a lot of little growing up, so I feel like I
Might be mixing.
might be mixing.
Okay.
If I'm not as confident higher.
Okay. So this is a safe environment. This is where we cheer each other on, not a place where we're judging each other, because if it was us up here, we would be peeing our pants. So we are totally in awe of you and inspired by you. So let's hear. Say, no! Like a whiny bratty kid. No! Same note, but she just went, ah, like it was so high, like it was the highest note that she could possibly sing. And then she went, no! It's fine, right? So you actually have a lot more power in the high end than you think. Okay, so, yeah, I actually heard a lot of air. So I would say that that's going to fatigue you a bit. I would guess that you feel a little bit fatigued after you sing a couple of sets, or depending on, just because the extra air will fatigue you. So it's not hard. You have a little bit of a mix going on, but you have a little bit too much air releasing too. And then we did hear that flip, right? Most of us heard that flip. So, and then once she got over that first bridge, then it all became head voice. But you could hear the, the distinct difference. So we want to create more mix. You have the capability. It's just probably an area that you haven't spent enough time being familiar with. So say the word, I like no, but say the word one and talk it. Say 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. Okay, so you're starting with 1 1. So that's my fault because I gave you W. Say no 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 no. No, 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 no. Shake your finger like you're really mad. I can't believe that dog just ate my favorite thing. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Good. Your first note, everything your high notes sound great. Your first note is a little light. So I want to work with her on the psychology of singing, because when she thinks singing, she comes in with breath. So we want you to come in with speech instead of no, 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 no. We want no, 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 no. So start strong. Okay, I'll give you an easier one. Say, good, 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 good. Really hard G. Good, 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 good. 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 Yeah, and that was the same note that she got up to a second. So, is that consistent with her singing voice? Does she use that when she sings live, that space that we were just in? Sometimes, yeah. So the big thing is that you have access to it, and I would have guessed that. The big thing is that you have access to it. You need to be aware of the extra breathiness on the low end is probably more of a priority, because it sounds like you can activate the stuff on the high end, but knowing how to do it without squeezing, so what would you say are your biggest problem areas? Actually, let's. Yeah, so narrowing your vowel will help. So if you do it on no, or let's do it on book, but it's basically the dopey. So say, we can actually keep no. No, 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 no! So give it a lot of dopey, and I can't, like, oh, I can't believe it. No! Like your 5-year-old boy. No, 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 no! No, 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 no! No, 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 no! No, 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 no! Okay, you're starting really soft. So say, it's okay. Say, book, 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 book! Book, 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 book! Book, 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 book! Oh, like book, 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 book! Say dopey! 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 Yeah, doesn't that sound less whiny? Because no is going to be more whiny because of the N. N resonates in your nasal cavity, so that's why it goes whinier. But dopey, it drops the larynx. So what you want is intensity plus the larynx to come down. And that's what gives you the power on the high without the whiny. But it's okay to learn with whiny and to activate whiny. You just want to then make it more of a yawny whine, which is what dopey is. So let's see. What's a song that kind of tremble, maybe? I don't know. What's a song that you feel like gets whiny for you?
Fresh out pouring.
What? Fresh out pouring. Okay.
So
What key is that in?
You know that one though, right?
I've heard it.
It's okay. We can do
I won't play it. I'll just.
it. We can do a different one.
Or AJ, where'd you go? Can you come play? There you are.
AJ!
AJ! I'm like, wait, I have keys player here. I brought him with me all the way from Kenosha.
Why did I say that?
Thank you, AJ. I'll sing to you until you get here.
I'm refreshing my memory.
stress. So one foot in front of the other. No!
No!
No, 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 no. Like, Try it.
No!
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 No, 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 no.
No, 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 no.
You're singing too much. No, 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 no. No singing, just talking. No!
No!
No, 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 no.
No, 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 no. What?
Hello. That didn't sound high at all. Didn't it sound completely different? No, 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 no. We're dropping our larynx by using the. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you? Did it sound whiny?
Your brain is like, you're whining, stop.
Well, yeah, but watch. I'll show you. Do it one more time, my way. No, 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 no.
No, 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 no.
Now do it in your normal voice. Release it fresh. Just do it.
I don't know what I did.
Release it fresh.
We need a fresh.
Do you feel the difference?
Yeah, because
We need
I'm
a
too much
fresh.
breath.
No!
No!
Do you feel the difference?
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Okay. So, we need a fresh is more tight. Your body language is going, oh crap. Yeah. So when you think, oh, what I did say, this is one of my taglines. Your brain affects your nervous system. If your brain goes, it's too high, your body responds, and then when your body is tense, then it's actually very difficult for your vocal cords to do what they're capable of doing. So we have to, it's difficult to go from insecure and unsure to like, I'm so confident. So we have to take the step in between, which is careless. I don't know how it's going to come out. It might be stupid. I'm doing it anyway. No, 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 no. Like, I don't care. Do it anyway. It's just like, whatever. Whatever. Yeah, so you just got to own it. Does that make sense? So, let's do it one more time by yourself, and then we'll do it one more time with the piano. So, say, and there are other words that can help. So if you could do, okay? Yeah. Say book, 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 book. That was pitchy. Book, 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 book. The dopier the better. Dopey, dopey. That's it. Do it again. Book, 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 book. Yeah. Book, 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 book. Did that sound whiny? Okay, now do exactly that. Don't even try to sing. Just try to talk it on pitch while he's playing.
Okay.
I'll do
Say book?
yeah. Book, 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 book. Yeah. Book. So listen. Book, 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 book. Book, 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 book. Book, 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 book. Book, book, book. Book, 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 book. Book, book, book. So, okay, stop. Thank you. So, here's the cool part, and also tricky part. She nailed it, and then she was like, oh, and then her larynx just went, just started to rise. So she had it for a second, and then she turned it singing. Did you hear that? She was like, book, 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 book. She had it for a second, book, 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 and then it was like, oh, this is working. And then so we have to, when there's a fix, you have to focus on it like it is everything. Otherwise, it'll just default. Does that make sense? Okay, great. So you have almost everything you have going on is working for you. Everything is like really on par. The main thing is a little bit more at the bottom at the low end, and a little bit more larynx drop, which is dopey on the middle and high end, with energy. Does that make sense? Okay, great job. Yay! Who's next? Johnny. Like, we need a boy. We need a boy next. No, I'm like, yes. Come on down, Johnny. Okay.
Yeah, I know. But if you don't want it to get weird, that's why you take voice lessons. Okay, here we go. No, that wasn't a shaming thing. That's just, I'll help you is the actual answer. I'll help you. So it'll sound weird for a second, and then we'll fix it. Okay? You're doing great. I'll bring you back down. You can. It's just gonna sound bad. Come on. It's okay. I'll do it with you. Here we go. So it's okay. I know it's super weird. Nobody likes that. Everybody hates when our voice. The whole point is that we don't want to have limits. So I'll teach you how to expand that so it's not as weird. So the thing is, he's avoiding it at all costs, which is chest pulling. So you're also mixing. I mean, you can hear mix in there. It's like, but there's just a little, the higher he goes, there's a little extra tension because he's worried about what's going to happen next. So because he's worried, his body's getting tense. Because he's tense, it's sounding a little tighter. It's not giving him the freedom he needs to go higher. So do the I'm at a ball game and somebody just scored. Woo! So do that. Woo! Woo! Here,
Can you hold the microphone?
I want you to have your hands to clap. So say woo! While you woo! Somewhere around there. So you're pretty high. Say woo! Yeah, you're way up here. So you have the range. It's just a matter of how to navigate that. So you can hold the microphone again. Thank you so much. So it's just a matter of how to navigate that so it's not pulled. So again, he's a chest puller. So we need to value head voice so it's not as freaky and weird. So what we would probably do is do some stuff. Let's say book 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 like a chicken but book 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 just book. It's kind of barky. Try it. Yeah, into the mic. Book. Okay, good. You're going to need your hands. Can you hold the microphone for him again? So this is the whole point. You can see, book, book, he is holding it. So we need the energy to flow differently. So say, book, book. All he needed was a clap. He needed his body needed to relax and learn intensity plus release at the same time. Throwing a dart, throwing a frisbee. When we throw something, we have pressure and release. Book, book. Book, 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 book. Okay, so this is also normal. He's in head voice. He's not bringing it back to chest. So now it's navigating book. Book, 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 book. You got it. Book, 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 book.
Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, good. Book, book, book. And bottom note, nice and chesty. Book, book, book.
Boop.
Not barky like book, but like let's try. Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, say wood. The word wood.
Wood.
Yeah, wood.
Wood.
Yeah, wood. 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 With the clap. Completely different when he claps. It's the energy flow. Wood. 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 Wood.
Wood. Wood.
Wood. Wood.
Wood.
Wood. Wood. Wood.
Wood.
Wood. Wood. Wood.
Wood. Wood.
There he goes. So no, she can hold it. We're not done yet. So, I mean, so sometimes we have to learn how to talk it before we can sing it. Because as soon as we start singing, we apply our old singing tricks that aren't really helping us. So, wood, 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 wood.
Wood. Wood. Wood. Wood.
Wood, 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 wood.
Wait, what?
It doesn't matter. Just pick notes. Wood, 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 wood.
Wood. Wood. Wood. Wood. Wood. Wood.
Clap,
Wood.
clap, clap, clap.
Wood. 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 Wood.
Wood.
Wood.
Wood. Wood. So it's easier up is a little easier than down, which is normal. So let's get a little bit. Let's try the word nut. Nut.
Nut.
Yeah. Nut. And let it be.
Nut.
Nice. Let it be Tarzan for a second. Nut. Yeah, I know.
Nut.
Nice. But low to high. Nut.
I can't do that.
Yeah, you can. You definitely can. It's weird, and it'll sound. I want it to sound out of control. Because the point is that your brain right now, it just wants control so bad it wants to sound good, and so you need to give it permission to sound weird. Nut.
Nut.
With a clap. Nut.
Nut.
Good. Nut.
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 Good. So it's getting there. So now let's just see, because you're going to do your hands and clap. So say, nut, 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 with a clap. Nut, 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 nut. Clap, clap. Nut, 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 nut. Here we go. Nut, 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 nut. Here we go. Good. Let it crack. Let it crack. I'm going to start higher. Nut, 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 nut. Nut, 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 nut. Nut, 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 nut. Okay, now we're going to go backwards. So I'm exploring with the way his brain works, and is ascending or descending better? So ascending first is better. Nut, 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 nut. Nut.
Nut.
Good. So for him right now, I want to do notes for you guys, but for him, we need to spend a little bit more time building the muscle memory in this space for him just to feel low to high, high to low. As soon as we put it on notes, his body starts tensing up again and tells him the message that you can't do this, it's too hard. Physically, that's not true. We've heard that that's not true. But let's say nut, 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 nut. Just
Nut, 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 nut.
exactly with a clap though.
Nut, 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 nut.
Isn't it so much better when he claps? How can you guys describe that? What would you say is better?
Less inhibited.
It's less inhibited. It's more free, essentially. Yeah. Has more boldness. It has more substance. Has more sound. What is it? Confident. It sounds more confident. So for you, I would say your magic trick right now is just clapping. So if we were to do a song, we would talk, sing the song. So what were we doing earlier, Grady Lord? Okay, so do you know that? You give life, you are Let's do the chorus. It's your breath. So do this. Na 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 na. Good. Okay, don't think sing. Think talk. Na na na. But on pitch. Na na. Actually, let's make it higher. Na 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 na. Don't sing it. So you can tell when he's singing because he lifts his chin and his chest goes out. So I want you to nod and go na na na. Scrunch your eyes. Na na. Yeah. Na na na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. There it is. So you can tell he was a little afraid of it. Now it was a little tight before. And we could go higher. Na na. Don't sing it, say it. Na na. Yeah, do you hear the difference? When he sings it, his sing is fine, but if we keep going higher, it's going to start squeezing. So you want to just, for now, your tool right now is to learn to talk, sing. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Try that. Na 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 na. Na na. Give me some attitude. Like, what do you want from me? Na 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 na. Exactly. like, I can connect with that. But did you hear the difference? And he totally went to a nice, healthy mix. He said, nut. It was nut. It was nice. It was thinner, but it didn't sound like weird and thin. It sounded free and easy. Does that make sense? So the next step, which is probably premature right now, but I don't know what key I'm in anymore. What? Where was I? So if you're there, so the idea would be that you'd play, I think we're in B now. So you'd play na 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 na. So you'd play the music, but you would just kind of talk, sing. So you want to connect your brain from the talk, sing to the music, but you don't want to start singing yet, because then you'll default to your old stuff. Does that make sense? Okay, great. That's good for now. Good job. I feel like for the sake of time, we need to move on. Is that okay without doing another mock lesson? Or do we need to be done? Oh, I mean, I can do at least some the vocal health tips and tools and stuff. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, So, all right. I'm just going to pull up my little sheets. I just had it open, so let's see. All right. Okay, so, all right, as far as taking care of your voice, are you guys good for a few extra minutes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, yeah, the idea is vocal health it's like the same as sports. If you get an injury, you don't go play in the game the next day. You rest. And we can vocally injure our voice. There's a lot of ways we can do that. Acid reflux, or any kind of reflux, is a really big vocal inhibitor. Like when you're essentially burning your vocal cords through acid because of what you're eating or what's happening in your stomach, stress, that can really affect what's happening in your vocal cords. So being aware of that and taking care of that is really important. And then, vocal injury. If you have nodules, go to the doctor. Talk to the doctor about what to do about those nodules. Definitely, vocal training is a huge part of that because maybe some kind of vocal rest can help, but if you keep singing and you keep doing the problem that created the nodules, that's not going to help. So you actually need to learn how to sing differently so you're not doing the problem that created the nodules. So the big thing is think like healthy body, healthy voice. So the same things that you do to take care of your body are the same things to take care of your voice. Drink water like you're a fish. Like chug, 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 chug. Be that person that has to go to the bathroom 25 times a day because you're drinking so much water. Seriously, like probably the number one thing that I can recommend is be a fish. Drink water like it is medicine for your vocal cords. Water, 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 water. So I think that's really, really important. Sleep is really important. It's the same way you take care of your body, but especially if you're singing in the morning or not. Like getting enough sleep, being rested is optimum for your vocal cords. You will sing so much better when you're rested than when you're not. Exercise. If you're gonna work out, and lift weights, be aware of grunting, because grunting can be hard on the vocal cords. I know most of you probably grunt when you work out. I'm just kidding. I used to grunt when I played volleyball, like it was like my thing, serving, and it was like ace, and everyone was like, oh, that's the girl that grunts, and I was like, yeah, it's also the girl that aces in your face. So, But then I learned, don't do that for your voice. Okay. So, I don't know if I ever shared that story, so you're welcome. Avoid sugar, caffeine, alcohol, smoke. So smoke can even be like campfires. Alcohol is really, really rough on the vocal cords. Caffeine, like coffee is a diuretic. It just strips moisture out of your body. What I tell people, because most people are like, yeah, I'm not going to stop drinking coffee, so quit talking to me about it. If that's you, if you're going to drink coffee no matter what you're doing, double the amount of water. So if you have an 8-ounce glass or cup of coffee, have 16 ounces of water at the same time. So you're rehydrating what you're dehydrating. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So fine, drink your coffee. You're going to be going to the bathroom a lot this morning. That's fine. That's probably what you need to be doing anyway. So tons and tons of water, especially if you are treating your vocal cords harshly through sugar and caffeine and those sort of things. Okay, speak well, sing well. Your speech majorly affects your singing voice. So be aware of environments that promote yell speaking, like parties, or airplanes, or church. Definitely avoid church. But the thing is, we don't realize that even on airplanes, just the decibel level of the room is higher. So when we're talking, it's like, oh my gosh, how was the thing that you did yesterday? We don't realize that we're working harder, we're working our vocal cords harder just to communicate. So if you're at a party, maybe like don't stand right by the speaker to have a conversation. Maybe like go outside where there's not loud music blaring, or vice versa. Maybe find a corner or the other side of the wall, or just be aware of that when you're, especially if it's a Saturday night and you're singing Sunday, that kind of thing, or wedding, or just be aware. Be aware of raspy and breathy voicing. So if you're at the movies, don't whisper. Just talk really, really soft. So whispering is more harsh on the vocal cords than soft talking. Don't yell or laugh too loud. A lot of us are really loud laughers. Just be aware of that. That's hard on the vocal cords. I see you. Hard on the vocal cords. And then speak at optimal pitch, not whiny, squeezy, or growly. If you believe that your natural speaking voice isn't well balanced, see a speech therapist or a speech pathologist. It's totally worth it, because sometimes we're actually working our voice harder in our speaking voice that we're using 90% of the day or 99% of the day. We're not actually singing that much, but the way we speak is already giving us fatigue. So, okay, moisture I talked about, drinking water, nebulizer. I left mine. I don't know what I did with my nebulizer. What is it in the back? That little thing that I was charging? Is it in the other room? Can you grab it for me? Thanks, Josh. So nebulizer, there's one that I just got. It's called Vocal Mist, and it has a special like saline solution. It's supposed to be better for vocalists, for singers specifically. So it's called Vocal Mist. It's basically nebulizers create really teeny tiny particles that are better absorbed into the vocal cord area. So you're not. So steaming is okay. Steaming is good, but steaming also, I think, has risks with the heat. So nebulizer is just optimum. And I have a little travel one. Did you find it? No, it's not in there. I might have put it in my bag in a little, little white carrying case. Thank you. Use humidifiers. We live in dry climate. You guys don't, so you might not need a humidifier. But if it gets dry, like if you're blasting the air conditioner and it's dry, then use a humidifier. Cool mist humidifier. Keep it clean so bacteria doesn't get in there, and then you're breathing in gross stuff that's not great. Yeah, there's sprays and supplements and stuff, but I'm not going to jump into that. Okay. Oh, as far as speech as well, if you notice in the morning, like today I was tired and I was like, hello, good morning, I'm going to talk to you all day. And I knew I'm going to fatigue myself if I keep going at this rate. So we did a little warm up. And then I was like, hi everyone, it's nice to see you today. My pitch raised. I was speaking more optimally pitch-wise. So what I always say, you found it. Is that it? Yay. Thank you. So it's, I always say, you might sound like your IQ went down because your voice went up, but you're taking care of your vocal cords. So even if you're saying hi, everybody, there's another little fixture on this guy. Did you find the little white bag? That it was just a little white mesh bag. Okay, it just has a little mouthpiece on it. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. So I'm like, did I bring it up here? Anyway. Okay, if you think you have vocal damage, go see an ear, nose, throat doctor right away. Like, if you're singing a lot, if you're singing weekly and multiple times a week, go just make an appointment today or like on Monday. Make an appointment to see an ear, nose, throat doctor, get checked out, and just see, hey, what's going on in there? Do I look good? You might find, oh my gosh, I'm pre-nodule. Okay, great, glad we found it before it became a hard nodule. So basically, yeah, take care of your voice. Okay. I think that's a good place to land. So here's the thing. If you're serious about singing regularly and long term, be a diva about your voice. Be a diva. Meaning, yes, be the person that is drinking water all the time and going pee all the time. Yes, be the person that is like, hey, I know it's 9 o'clock, guys, but I gotta sing in the morning. Good night. Be the person that is like, oh, where is it? Can I have the water with the pH of 9.5, please? I like my alkaline water. It's, yes. I'm okay to say I'm a diva about my water and about my voice and about what that means for me. Because I'm like, oh, hey, can we actually go outside to talk because I'm singing tomorrow? Yes, be a diva. Do it. This is the only one you got. Take care of it. Okay? So, last thing I'm going to say is just consider yourself a vocal athlete. So the idea is form before function. A lot of people are taking voice lessons and they're like, yeah, I'm singing fine, but how do I sing on stage? It's like, that's not the point. We're not at the Olympics right now. We are training. What? Yeah, that's it. Gracias. So that's the idea is be a vocal diva. Take care of your voice every way that you know how. And I know I'm over time. Thank you so much. So I can either do Q&A or we can call it a day and say thanks. So it's your people, you're gonna know. A couple minutes of Q&A? Okay. Q&A? Anybody questions? myvocalmist.com. Let's see if it might not. Sometimes it makes me start over.
Well, maybe because I had water in it when I charged. My bad.
So you don't have to
Did you
add
nail
it?
it, or did you just, okay, I know.
I did this on the plane and I was like, because it's so dry on the airplane. Like it really, I was sleeping like this on the plane. I knew it. I was like, Bryce, my mouth is open. Listen, he's like, yeah, for like 2 hours. Well, you're welcome. But I woke up because the air was like right on my mouth, and I'm like, I'm gonna be a diva. I'm gonna be a diva, and if they get mad at me, or if the girl next to me is like, what are you doing? I'm a voice teacher. You know what I mean? So, questions and answers. Where did I get this? myvocalmist.com. Yes?
As you get older, how...
I don't.
So that's about to get older. What is there, do we have to do anything different to protect our voice? Or just try to
The
see
same answer as your body. Like, I'm older, my back hurts more. Like, be healed. I mean, it's to be aware of what's happening and talk to the people that know how to help you take care of it. No. Yeah, not at all. Because your voice changes as you age, so it's important to learn how to navigate that.
Keep your neck healthy, so laryngeal-wise, those neck muscles are tight, pulling in your larynx.
Keep your neck healthy.
Not tight.
We talked to her. Yeah. So neck, what? Up, chin up.
Just
Sorry.
neck exercises in general, just
Oh,
not
neck.
not tension. I mean, you know,
Neck exercises to
because
not
our
tense.
necks get tight.
Nice. Any other questions? Any other questions? Comments? Confusion? Be gone in the name of Jesus. Anything? I know you're hungry, but just one question, just one. I'm going to wait here till you ask it.
Where do we go to contact for voice lessons?
JoannaFinchum.com.
Say that again.
JoannaFinchum.com. That's how you can contact me. And if you, and Bryce is on my website too. Half price Bryce. Very true. Finchum, Finchum, or you can ask Mandy. She has my contact info. So she'll send an email to everyone. That's funny. Okay, great. Great. Thanks for coming this weekend, guys. JoannaFinchum.com. Okay, guys. God, thanks for today. Thanks for this beautiful group of people. We love them, and I just bless their voices in Jesus' name to sing with all the freedom and glory that you created for them. And yeah, bless their health, their bodies, their minds, their spirits in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, let's thank them for coming. This was to Stevie and Johnny. If I had my first lesson with Joanna in front of people, I would have quit singing. So congratulations, you did it. So just quickly, right before we leave, we just want to make sure that we thank everybody. So thank you, of course, to Joanna and Bryce for coming all the way out here. Thank you to Danny for helping last night, and for going to Bethel so that I could know Joanna. Thank you to Justin for running sound for us and making sure it all went well. AJ for running around like a crazy person with me this week and all other weeks. And then to just church, allowing us to bring them in, and Pastor Kevin and all of them kind of supporting that vision that we have to, just love on you guys and make sure that we all have the tools that we need to keep doing what we're doing. Also, Paelli's for donuts this morning. Amen. Thank you. We love Paelli's. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming. We're so glad you did. If you have any questions, honestly, I can answer lots of your questions, not technically as well as she can, but if you need to get a hold of her, if you want to do a lesson. Online lessons are not scary. I did my first one in person, which was nice, but otherwise, it's really normal. It's just as normal as FaceTiming. You just set it up, and I did do one whole lesson where I was like this, but other than that, it's usually pretty regular. So it's really cool. It's really good. I've been excited to have invested in that. So anyway, yes, we did record both of these last night and today, so we can figure out how to get that to you if you want to just watch it over and over again, or for those that weren't here, we have a lot of people at Fine Arts, so General Counsel. So anyway, thanks again, guys. Yes. I will figure it out. Justin will help me, and I will get that to you. Yes, I can get that to your campus worship director, so I can get that to Aaron and Alicia, and then they can. Or Oak Creek. Where is he?
He left.
Oh, they had to leave. Yes, I will give it to Oak Creek. I will, if anybody needs any, honestly, just, you can email me, and I'll make sure to get anybody who needs anything ready. Perfect. Okay. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here.
Take a donut. Take a donut.